Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the No Nay Never podcast. Note the date and the time in the ship's log. The Clarets have racked up their first home win of the 2023-2024 Premier League season. And if you're going to win your first game at home, what a way to do it. I am joined this week by regular panellists Rich Steele and Tom Whittaker, who'll be going back over that Sheff United win. We might even get Tom in a bit of a good mood, who knows? And then we are, of course, joined by resident statistician Dave Roberts, who's going to be giving us all the stats and facts you need ahead of the Clarets away trip at Wolves midweek. So without further ado, let's go. Gentlemen, welcome. What is this? We are doing an analysis show of a Burnley win. This is incredible news. Welcome, everybody. How are we all feeling?
Yeah, very good, very good. Still happy with the win. I think it's almost a shame, on cloud nine. It's almost a shame we've got a game tomorrow.
To bring us all back down to earth, but we're not going to worry about that. We'll worry about that in the second part.
We'll see.
I know.
Yeah.
Tom, the key question that all of our listeners want to know is, did that result manage to pull you out of this bad mood you've been in since August?
Well, I really enjoyed it. You have to have a heart of stone to be in a bad mood after a 5-0 win, isn't you? So, yeah.
I thought you were getting there. I thought that it was certainly like a soft concrete was your heart. It might not have turned to stone yet, but it was getting that way.
Well, I bumped into Andrew Blythe before the game on Saturday, and he told me to try and be a bit less negative on the podcast. So,
do you know what? I love Andrew.
Yeah.
Well done, Andrew.
What a guy.
We've all given up on him, so Andrew Blythe is an absolute legend and a true Claret fan. We love him. So, immediate reaction to that 5-0 thumping of Sheff United at home on Saturday. I'm going to open up the floor to Rich, who, listeners, I've got to say, has been unwavering in his determination to stay faithful to the Clarets. When we've all got grumpy and we've been sulking because we've lost 9 on the bounce or something ridiculous, and we were all feeling sorry for ourselves, Rich was pulling us all out of our mood and telling us to keep the faith. And you did say as well, Rich, at the beginning of the season, that whilst you thought we'd get thumped at least 5-0, maybe not as regularly as we thought we would do, by an away team, you thought that we had a 5-0 win in us. Kick us off. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, it's obviously really nice to be on the back of the win. I just want to point it out, listeners, I've not been happy that we've been losing every week. I think for me, the West Ham game the week before was a real sickener. I don't take football home as much as I used to. Now I'm getting a little bit older, but that last Saturday night, well, the West Ham Saturday night was quite a tough one. I think from my point of view, it's just kind of that message of, ultimately, we're supporters of Burnley Football Club. As much as we want us to win every week, we've got no entitlement to win every week, and we support Burnley. We don't support Barcelona. We don't support Man City. There's going to be tough times and there's going to be tough periods supporting Burnley. And what do? Do you kind of just go, well, I can't be bothered anymore until we start winning again. And when we win again, it'll all be sound. I'll get back on. Or do you go and support your team, through thick and thin, and get behind the players, get behind the manager? And ultimately, I think overall the fans have been superb, and I think the majority of fans have really backed the team. There's been a lot of stuff off the pitch about atmosphere and flags and and different things like that, but ultimately the team's got to perform as well to get the atmosphere going. And I think from my standpoint, I was getting more concerned and worried after the Bournemouth, Brentford and Everton games, where it was really poor. And then Palace, Arsenal, and obviously West Ham. Yeah, there were 3 losses, but I thought we actually played quite well in those games.
Yeah.
And to me, I will always fully back a team and a playing squad who is fully trying. And I've not seen a lack of effort or anything this year. I've just seen a lack of quality at times, a lack of naivety. And I just think I've just tried to be quite balanced. And just because we've beat Sheff United, who were a very, very poor side, doesn't mean all of a sudden we're going to go on and beat everybody in our sight. But I think the way we won, how emphatically we won, I think hopefully we'll take some confidence into the next games. But the Premier League's an unforgiving beast. People may disagree with me on this. I think since we were successful in the Premier League, when I mean successful, we had a top half finish and obviously the Europe season. I generally think the standard of the Premier League's got a lot better now. I think even those teams who are kind of like lower mid-table are a lot stronger than when we come seventh. You've seen the money that's been spent, and everyone was saying, well, we spent 100 million in the summer, which is a hell of a lot of money for Burnley, and I'd never say it wasn't. And I think something that Tom got right when we was all getting a bit excited. Tom was always very unsure about the recruitment, and as it's turned out, our recruitment has been imbalanced, and there's a lot of gaps on the pitch. But ultimately, 100 million now, whether you like it or not, it doesn't even really scratch the surface of what you need. You look at what Forest has spent over nearly 2 years in the Premier League, or 3 transfers in the Premier League. I don't know the figures. I imagine it'll be upwards of 200 million. And if it wasn't for Everton, they'd be essentially 17th with all that money spent. So it's an unforgiving league.
Yeah,
yes, we've not helped ourselves. Yes, at times Kompany has made baffling decisions. But ultimately, I'll always be, I'll support Burnley, whether the top of the Premier League or bottom of the National League. I'll kind of always be there and always turn up, because I think that's what you got to do as a football supporter.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the age old argument, isn't it? We are Burnley supporters, and whilst we've not loved this season, we've all still turned up, and we've been there, and we've followed them, and we've stuck with them. It's the fan in you that craves that entertainment. It's the fan in you that doesn't like getting beat every week, because we are, we go there because it's a pastime and we want to see us win. Tom, picking up on one of the things that Rich said there, a lot has been made this season about the poorness of the 3 promoted sides and the gulf in class between them. And if you look at the 3 other sides who were supposed to be our relegation rivals, so you've got Forest, you've got Everton, you've got Forest, Everton, and who's the other one? Bournemouth, thank you. They all look significantly stronger than we do, and they're supposed to be our nearest rivals. That said, playing Luton and seeing that Sheffield United side at the weekend, I feel quite good about the future of this current project that we're on, even if it does result in the likely relegation this season. Seeing how much more positive we were than Sheffield United, how much more technically improved we were, how much more positive we were, how much forward thinking our manager was, and the youth and potential in that side, as opposed to a Sheffield United side who didn't really seem to have much of an identity or much of a plan of how to proactively win a game. Even if we do go down this season, that's got to make you feel more comfortable with how we're going to go in the next 2 to 3 years.
I think it depends really on what sort of team we're going to have next season. If we do go down, and I actually said on the trip off, even if we win 5-0 today, I still think we'll go down. I wasn't expecting us to actually win 5-0, but yeah, I think it's still pretty likely. It depends what we've spent a lot of money, as Rich said, and as he said, it's perhaps not a lot of money these days in Premier League terms, but it certainly is in our terms. We are going to have to sell if we go down, and there's going to be players who don't want to be here next season. I can't imagine I'm doing playing a season in the Championship. I think he's too good for that. I'm not sure about Burge. Maybe we'd keep him, maybe we wouldn't. I think it's pretty likely we're going to get a bid for Koleosho, and he'll go if we get relegated. So then you wonder, is Trezor going to want to play in the Championship? Is Ramsey going to want to play in the Championship? I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure. And until we know what the team looks like next season, I think it's kind of hard to say how well we'll do. We saw obviously last time we were in it that the Championship is quite a weak league. You can see that the teams who came down last season are the teams who are up there now. I don't think Southampton came down very well, and yet they're sort of comfortably in the top 4. You'd imagine Leicester are going to go up. You'd think probably one of Leeds or Southampton will as well. And if Sheffield United come down as weak as they are, Luton obviously haven't got the finance, then yeah, I suppose it just gives you a bit of confidence that next season would be a bit of an easier season. But I think it's a bit too early to say. It's quite hard to judge at this stage, especially not knowing what the team's going to be, because I imagine if we do go down, it's going to be another season like we've had the last 2, where there's loads of people leaving and loads of people coming in, and it seems to be the way the company likes to do it.
Yeah. It's a really good point to that, actually. We keep hearing this justification of a 3-year project and buying these players who are going to come to fruition, who are going to be at their peak in 2 to 3 years' time. But if we're going to sell them every summer, then are we not in a perpetual cycle of always being with these players who aren't yet quite ready. I think that is potentially a flaw in this justification that we're being fed that we're in a 3 to 5 year plan. So that is definitely something to watch out for. Dave, very quickly, obviously the game was helped significantly by Sheffield. I keep saying Southampton because you put Southampton in my head. Sheffield United having to play a significant number of minutes with only 10 men. I've looked at this a couple of times now. It was actually ended up being 2 elbows, pretty identical tackle, both of them, 2 yellows. So VAR couldn't look at it to comment on the red. I know where I sit with this, so I'm going to put it to you first. Talk us through those 2 decisions. Correct? Would you have given a red for the first already? I don't think anybody's just debating that it should have been 2 yellows anyway, but I'm just wondering, a lot of fans calling for the first one to be a red. Where do you stand on this?
Could well have been. I mean, the comparison I make is with another similar incident that happened at Turf Moor for Andy Carroll. Yeah, I think he actually came in as a sub, didn't he? And he got a yellow card for an elbow and then did the same thing again a couple of minutes later and got sent off. They were almost identical in terms of what was going on. So if you're going to do that, particularly when you've got booked for the first one, to do it again a second time, they didn't have a leg to stand on. I think the referee could easily have sent him off for the first one. The second one could have been a straight red as well. So either way he went, it basically, they were struggling anyway, going down to 10 men. They were never going to get back into the game, I don't think. And it just made it easier for them.
You see, I've looked at both of these. I'm actually quite happy with both of them being a yellow. I think they're on the border, and I think we've talked a lot about the orange card or potentially the sin bin that's being brought in. I think they're both probably yellows. From a technical perspective, Rich, you're quite hot on the technical side. Can you see a stronger argument than I can for the first one, or I guess the second one being a red?
I thought the first one was a red card.
Really?
Me personally, I thought he's actually, for people on YouTube, he's seen the man and he's gone bang and he's actually put his elbow into his face. I thought that was deliberate. And then in the case of the modern day, what people are getting sent off for in terms of dangerous play and whatnot, yeah, I thought it was a red card. I thought the second one was a yellow because the second is a bit more of a straight arm. It's not a dent. But for me, there's definitely intent in that first one. He moved his arm back with malice.
Yeah. Well, it's probably quite telling, isn't it, Rich, that if the referee just immediately turns the red, VAR probably doesn't overturn it.
No, and you know, you've got an argument for both. But I just think in the way, you know, the football's gone and the threshold for red cards now, I did think that was one. But as soon, you know, Dave mentioned Andy Carroll, and as soon as he got sent off, I turned to my dad and I said it was identical.
Yeah, we said
like,
the same.
I sit in the James Hargreaves upper, quite, you know, high at the top, and you can, as soon as that ball went up in the air and you see McBurney running towards O'Shea, you knew what was going to happen. It was just a writing on the wall. It was so predictable. If I was a Sheff United fan, that's something that would not want me, you know, to watch a player anymore. I thought he complete 2-0. Knowing what Burnley are like, you know, Archer had a great chance which he just missed to get back 2-1. You know, that was absolutely disgraceful from McBurney. That is one of the worst pieces of professionalism I've ever seen from a player. You know, I'm not saying he should be fined wages or anything like that, but like he needs the club need to really go hard on him in some way, because
he's such a critical player for them, isn't he?
Yeah, and you know what? He's a decent player, but he gets wrapped up in nonsense. He's just a complete div to me, to be honest. Like, but yeah, just a complete div. He's a thug. There's no place for players like him in football anymore. Like we've talked about Barnes, and you know, Barnes been a little bit rugged, but we've never seen Barnes do anything like that for Burnley. Nothing like that. So yeah, for me, just
we've seen him push a Blackburn defender into them, which was he's had a few.
No, but he's not gone.
Maybe not elbows, but I don't know. Do you remember Jose Mourinho going on Soccer Sunday saying that he should be arrested? I don't know either. I think like that. Tom, any players particularly who stood out for you as very strong performances? And if not Amdouni and Koleosho, why not?
Yeah, I think probably it would be fair to highlight some of the players who I thought were improved. I think Amdouni and Koleosho, perhaps just with a bit more of addition and product, but we know what they're about. I think people to give a bit of praise to that have had quite a lot of criticism this season will be Trafford. I thought in the first half he was a lot more adventurous with his passing. He seemed a bit more confident with it. the ball's coming into the midfield as opposed to just going to the centre halves every time. He seems to have a bit more of a range, and obviously the fact that he's been given the freedom now to go long sometimes.
Yes,
really,
that made such a difference.
it was really obviously lacking from our play, because we had it last season. You know, we're not afraid to mix it up last season. That ball from Muric over the top to Teller, and you're thinking this season, is it just that Trafford can't do it? But you know, he wasn't afraid. And obviously we've got 2 goals out of long going over the top in the first half. It's not something that you should have to shy away from. And there's some games this season, Man United, Palace, where we've been losing and all we've been doing is passing it sideways between the centre halves. Imagine if some of them games we've just got ourselves 40, 50 yards up the pitch a bit soon and try and win the second ball. You know, you don't have to shy away from it. And I'm hoping that Kompany's starting to realise that actually, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing to go long sometimes. So Trafford deserves praise for that for me, and I think O'Shea as well. His short range passing is still terrible. I think 3 or 4
oh, bless him.
in the second half where he just passed it straight out for a throw in, but the ball over the top that he clipped for Brun Larsen's goal.
That was a superb ball.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
Oh my God! Just pause there. That touch from Larsen, by the way, for that goal. Oh my God! That was just pure delight. I was going to say something else then, but it's a family-friendly show.
Really good. I did think, you know, at the time when I watched it, I thought, why has the keeper not come out for that? And I'm still not sure that maybe he should have. But yeah, it was. I mean, it's a really difficult skill to kill it like that when it's coming over your shoulder. And obviously the keeper made his mind up for him. But yeah, fantastic goal. And that was another big thing for me. Why that's his first start? I mean, he scored that goal against Luton and he's barely had a kick. It's just bizarre.
He's great. He's really great.
Really weird. But hopefully now he just seemed to. Some of the things that were glaringly obvious errors that Kompany's been making all season, he just belatedly seems to be catching up to now. So hopefully that's the one. Brun Larsen will get a bit more game time.
Well, I think until Foster's well enough to return, those attacking players, those front 4 were just so Colio, Shaw, Amdouni, Jay, and Larsen were just. That's I think our strongest forward attacking line at the moment. And Sanderberg, I mean, he. Facing his old side as well, I thought he put in that guy is incredible. Anybody else who particularly impressed you, Rich? Sorry, Dave, we are coming to you soon. We are going to do a preview show soon. We're all excited because we've got to win. Poor guy. So anybody else or anything else? Any other player? Anything that VK did that inspired you to happiness?
No, I think Tom covered it really well. I think if we can see a little bit more end product from Amdouni and a little bit more decisiveness in the final third, then we really have got a top player there. But ultimately, I suppose that's why we've signed him and not one of the bigger clubs, because he's a bit of an unpolished gem. No, I think Tom covered it really well. I just think one thing now is he seems to have stumbled upon or found, whichever way you want to describe it, a bit more of a settled team. And you can see, you know, from that team that played against Palace, I think we've started the same team. I think Larsen might have been the change for Gudmundsson.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, each game, we're just knitting it together. We're looking more and more like a team. People understanding people's runs, defence playing better together. You know, and that Bayard yellow card for me, that really annoyed me at the time because he's going to miss tomorrow night. Completely stupid. And he deserves that yellow. But yeah, like you said, Tom was like, you know, Larsen. Somebody, you know, ever since I first watched Larsen, I thought he's got something, and you know, he looks a real talent. And like I said, that touch, it could have just gone anywhere, and it was perfectly into. He didn't have to break stride, and he strolled it in. The only reason I can think of with Larsen, he's hardly kicked a ball for 18 months, 2 years at his previous clubs. So has he just been nursing him back in? I don't know, but for him to not even come off the bench more seemed odd. But no, Burge and Brownhill, I really doubted whether Burge could play in that position. I think we all did, rather than number 10. And it sounds like he's getting his confidence back. There are still, and Tom will agree with me on this, there's still times with Burge I might just play a little bit quicker. He gets the ball so well, and just think still half a yard quicker at times. Sometimes it can be, you know, his style's very languid and relaxed, and he's lovely to watch. But at times when you really want to drive, you know, like you were saying, Natalie, you know, when we're 2-0 up, and you're like, you know, get that third goal, you know, really drive it forward. But no, it was just a fantastic team performance. You can't criticise anybody. I thought all the way through the pitch, we was really good. And, you know, you can see there's a big golfing class now between us and Sheff United. Now, we've beat Sheffield and Luton, who came below us in the Championship.
And drawn at Forest.
Now it's time to, you know, Wolves away Tuesday. Let's beat one of these proper established Premier League clubs and really get our season up and running.
Definitely. Good stuff. Well, we will talk a little bit more about how we build on that when we get into the Wolves preview. So let's hand over, of course, to the main man himself, Dave Statman-Roberts, and we're going to look at that Wolves game. Dave, before we kick off, quiz question. We are, of course, playing Wolves away at Molineux tomorrow night, Tuesday, the 5th of December. It's a 7:30 kickoff. Just checking my script. 7:30 kickoff. It's live on Amazon Prime. What popular format are you going to give our listeners in the form of a quiz question for this episode, please, Dave?
Well, any regular listeners from this season will probably be accustomed by now to our little quiz interlude, which we ask you for the names of any players who've made 50 or more league appearances for both Burnley and our next opponents, in this case Wolves, between World War II and the end of last season. There are 7 players to choose from this time, and this is probably your best chance to name at least one. But can anyone do better than that and name all 7? Find out before we finish at the end of the episode.
You will. And Tom, Rich, you need to be thinking about this as well, because I will come to you at the end of the show and see what you do. So let's kick us off, Dave, with all the key facts and stats ahead of this fixture. Starting off, please, with our match results summary.
Yeah, we can confirm that Burnley have played 65 away league matches at Wolves. Most of those were at their current ground, Molineux, although the first ever league meeting between the two clubs way back in 1888, that was the first season of the Football League, that was at their former home at Dudley Road. Wolves are also one of the teams we've faced in the 4th tier, having spent 2 seasons together in the basement division in the late 1980s. And we've also spent 22 seasons together in the 2nd tier, and the current campaign is the 42nd season together in the top flight. 65 past away league games at all levels have produced just 13 Burnley wins, 12 draws and 40 victories for our hosts. Although Burnley have scored 59 goals, we've conceded 137 times in those matches. In our Premier League away visits, we've managed 1 win, 2 draws and 2 defeats in 5 campaigns since 2009, although we've also been a couple of seasons together in the Championship during this time.
Okay. Next feature, please. Our one to remember and one to forget. You are going to be looking, you're basically going to be reminding us of a couple of past matches that were memorable for contrasting reasons, Dave. Kick us off, please.
Yeah, there have been 6 Burnley. I'm doing it the other way around this time, so we're going with the one to remember first, and then the one to forget. But there's a good reason, because there's a happy ending on one. So there've been 6 Burnley victories in league matches at Molineux since the start of the 1970s. And although we managed our biggest ever away victory in April 2021, that was a 4-0 win, helped by a first half hat-trick from Chris Wood. But there were no fans there to see it. Remember, that was one behind closed doors, so none of us were down there to see it. So we're going to take you back instead to the end of September 2005. The match took place in front of the Sky Sports cameras on a Friday evening, and the official away following was just 324. Wolves were in the playoff places, and Steve Cottrell's Burnley in 19th place was not expected to win. On a balance at play, we probably shouldn't have come away with anything but a clever free kick routine, confused the home defence, and enabled Gareth O'Connor to fire in a shot from just outside the box after 23 minutes. And a resolute Burnley team, captained by Frank Sinclair, held on for the 1-0 win and all 3 points. This was Burnley's first victory against Wolves in any competition, home or away, in almost 19 years, ending a sequence of 11 consecutive defeats since another 1-0 win at Molineux in September 1986.
Okay. Match 2 then. I want to forget.
Yes, I want to forget. We're going back to the 1959-60 season. At the end of March 1960, Burnley was still in the running for the league title, but faced a tough match at rivals Wolves in a midweek match. Third place Burnley were just 1 point behind Wolves, with 2 games in hand, with both teams chasing current leaders Spurs. The home side found the net 4 times during a blistering first half, with just 1 in reply for Burnley, from Ray Pointer. Further goals in the second half from Jerry Mannion, with his second of the match, and Bobby Mason, meant that it finished 6-1, to give Wolves an emphatic victory and a morale-boosting push towards the title. The Burnley Express went with the headline, Wolves shatter Burnley's method. And despite still having games in hand, it seemed as if the advantage had been handed to our rivals. However, there was a happy ending, as promised. And thankfully, with Spurs and Wolves both dropping points during April, we beat Manchester City 2-1 at Main Road in the very last match of the season at the start of May to bring the league title to the town of Burnley for just the second time in the club's history.
Lovely stuff. Well, you know we don't like to make you rely just on us listeners. We do like to share the love. And this week we got the opposition view from our friends at Wolves Fancast, who gave us their thoughts ahead of the game.
Hi, Rich from Wolves Fancast here to give you my thoughts on Wolves versus Burnley for No Nay Never. I'm really glad Burnley won at the weekend because it just means that they're not going to get that first win against Wolves. It would just be classic Wolves to, lose to the side who hasn't won all season. That's not a dig at Burnley because I think actually quietly they haven't been playing awfully. And have actually, tried to stick to their principles and try to build on what they're doing and not lose faith in the system and in the project, which I think is really important for any side, and to, hold their nerve. And the fact that you've sort of seen, Sheffield United potentially getting rid of their manager, and hopefully Burnley are kind of staying with Kompany, and it's going to sort of help push them forward. So I think it's going to be a really exciting game from what I've seen of Burnley. Play good football. Wolves have evolved in a number of ways, and the perception of them has changed from the past few seasons, from a team who couldn't really score a lot of goals and didn't really have much of an identity, to now we're a team who do get goals regularly. And even when we concede now, we look like we might get another goal, and we're showing we can do that against the best teams in the league, as well as teams around us in the bottom half of the table as well. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game. The big downside for Wolves, in my opinion, is still the fact without Pedro Neto, he's still probably the highest assist contributor in the league and really drives us forward. And we have missed him to a degree. The results might not necessarily show it in the full part, but he has been a big miss for this team. Matheus Cunha, however, has stepped up. He's got 2 in his last 2, leading line really well. So hopefully he can make it 3 goals in 3 games on Tuesday night. Now, big difference, hopefully, from when we played Arsenal is the fact we're without our 2 main starting midfielders in Lamina and João Gomes, who were both suspended. So hopefully they might come back in, give us a bit more steel in that midfield as well. And if not, we have got Tommy Doyle to provide a little bit more guile in the middle of the park as well, to kind of really shape things up. Overall, I'm really excited for the game. Hopefully, after losing 2 on the bounce, Wolves can turn it round and get a win at home, especially as we've got Forest coming up next. But fingers crossed it's a good game, and hope you all enjoy it too.
Okay, referee details, please, David.
37-year-old Australian-born Jared Gillett, who's now based in Liverpool, will be the referee for our visit to Molineux on Tuesday evening. The only 2 previous occasions he's taken charge of a Burnley match were both at Turf Moor earlier this year, for our 2-1 comeback win against West Brom in January and a goalless draw against Sunderland at the end of March. There were no red cards in either of those matches, and the yellow card count was 3 for Burnley players and just 1 for our opponents. Robert Jones has the unenviable task of being the video assistant referee for this fixture.
Lovely stuff. Taking all of that into account then, Tom, let's come to you first. Is there any chance that the Clarets can capitalise on that win with a second back-to-back wins in the Premier League this season? Can you even imagine it? Away at Wolves is possibly not the best victory wanted directly ahead of that. But as Rich said earlier on, there's a bit of a swagger and a bit of a confidence that's going to come from that result at the weekend. Do you feel confident enough that Burnley can go ahead and try and get something from Wolves?
Yeah, Wolves are a bit of a funny team, aren't they? Like, sometimes they look really good. I think they've already beat Man City and somebody else decent at Molineux. But then Spurs, thank you. Yeah.
Somebody
But then
else
something-
decent. That's the most Spursy way of saying Spurs I've ever seen in my life. Like, yeah, somebody decent. Oh yeah, Spurs.
They've got Spurs at a good time, I suppose. But yeah, so they look good in some games, and then, well, I mean, they lost at Sheffield United. I know there was a bit of a joke penalty. Hopefully, the fact that VIR seems to be designed to scupper Wolves' chances in the Premier League this season.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you know, this had missed my radar recently, but my goodness, like they've been absolutely shafted this season. Like,
Yeah.
at what point as a Wolves fan do you go, there is absolutely a conspiracy against us this year? I don't blame any Wolves fans for going, nah, not having this. So sorry.
Yeah, I feel sorry for them, but I hope it carries on for our game tomorrow.
Is this not the ultimate decider, given that the Premier League and VAR generally hates Burnley? Will we be the one to break the VAR Wolves curse? Maybe that will happen. They'll get a decision against us. Sorry, that's twice now.
And 2 goals disallowed each. Yeah. No, I think so. I think Wolves they're not they're beatable. I think it's quite hard to judge because I think Sheffield United were just so bad. They're just such a poor team. It's pretty hard to say, and you can only beat what's put in front of you, and it's not as if we just nicked it. We've battered them. We've beaten them very convincingly. So hopefully there's some confidence there. But I think it's pretty telling that the only teams we've beaten so far are the other 2 that people think are going to go down with us. We haven't really laid a glove on anyone who looks like they're going to be anywhere near staying up this season yet. So it's kind of hard to predict a win. I think if we could show that we've got enough about us to go and grind some points out away from home, even if we can get a draw in this game, I think there's going to be points where we're going to be under the cosh a bit. I think we know that we're not very good defensively, and we're missing probably our best defender for this game as well. I don't think there's a chance he's going to bring Muric in. I don't think there's a chance we're going to see Roberts. I think they're better defenders. So you'd have to say that you'd fancy Wolves to cause some problems in this game. So if we can show that we can stand up to that and perhaps be a bit more clinical ourselves, before the game on Saturday, I think we were maybe the lowest or the joint lowest scorer in the league. So to rack five different goal scorers out for that, give the forward players a bit of confidence. Hopefully it'll mean that we're a bit more adept in taking what chances we create down there. I'd be delighted if we got a point, I think.
Me too.
Yeah, I think that's something we need as a team. That West Ham game when we concede that late equaliser, just don't concede again. It's that kind of thing. You need a bit more resilience. They were really fighting for that clean sheet on Saturday. Not that it was tested too much, but hopefully that's some confidence for the defence and for the goalkeeper especially as well. So yeah, the next 2 away games are tricky. I think if we got 1 or 2 points, even a win out of one of them, I'd be more than happy with that. The big game coming up is Everton at home. If we don't win that, then we're going to be in real trouble. But yeah, another good performance I'd be happy with. And if we can get something, if we can grind out a point, great. If we can get 3, fantastic. Let's have a little bit of momentum going into that Everton game. I think that's the one I'm really looking at.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point, is that, Rich? I think there's a couple of things there from the weekend that particularly pleased me, and Tom's already pushed them a little bit to the front of the agenda. And it wasn't just the determination to keep a clean sheet; it was the way that they turned the screw when it went 2-0. There was a point at 2-0 where I thought that they'd taken the foot off the gas and they'd considered that the game was won. And I think we've talked a lot about potentially mental application to games by this side. I think there was a point where O'Shea managed to probably walk the ball from our penalty spot right the way toward the halfway line, and neither a Burnley or Sheff United player even challenged in. They were like, yeah, okay, mate, whatever, go ahead. And I remember saying at the time that I wanted to see us get clinical and get ruthless in a game, because you're not presented with that opportunity very much in the Premier League. And they did that, and that's when they killed off the game and they went for the 5-0. So taking those 2 elements, the determination to keep a clean sheet and that fierceness about them to kill the game off, that to me is the strongest sign that I've seen that we might be developing that resilience and that mental strength. Is that what we need? Is that enough to try and grind out a result away at Wolves, or do we need more?
Yeah, I think Tom hit the nail on the head. I think at times in any level of football, you've got to be able to just grind out points. I think, to be fair, we did that at Luton, and I think there was times last season, we didn't just win 2, 3, 4-0 every week last year. We did keep clean sheets. obviously, albeit against weaker opposition. But there's going to be times, in tomorrow's game where we're going to be under pressure, where we've got to stay tight as a unit. We've got to be willing to put our bodies on the line, and yeah, I am confident we can get something tomorrow. As Tom, the thing is with us, realistically, we're going to go into the vast majority of games not being the favourites to win this year. So at some point, you're going to have to pick wins up somewhere.
Yeah.
If somebody offered it now, I wouldn't mind a draw. But I think we can win, and at some point, if we need to stay up, we are going to have to win some of these away games especially against some of the bottom half teams. As we said, Sheff United was so poor against us, but they got 4 points against our next 2 opposition. So there's no reason why we can't pick something up from these games
really
before Everton. It's a blow, as we mentioned before about Bayer. It's a blow missing him. It does soften the blow having Ekdal coming back in. If we had to bring Aldakiel back in or Delquar back in, I'd have very little confidence, if I'm being honest, going into this game. So that's a real big positive for us. And I think the more Jay's playing, the more he's getting up to speed with the Premier League again. Listen, he's not as good as Foster, and he's not the player he was, which you wouldn't expect. And hopefully having that more of a settled lineup could give us a good opportunity. I think everyone's in more positive spirits. If we get a draw, great. If we win, you kind of feel right. You know what, the season's turning a little bit. But if it turns into tomorrow another typical Burnley performance where we lose 2-1, 3-1 or 2-0 and we give away some sloppy goals, it'll just be like, oh, bloody hell, back to Groundhog Day. And that Sheffield game will be quickly forgotten because that's the nature of football. You go on that emotional roller coaster a lot of the time, as we quite know with one of our fellow podcasters who's not here tonight. That you can have that up and down journey.
The emotional roller coaster we have with that one. My God.
So my initial thoughts is I'm not confident, but I'm hopeful.
What do you do about this? Obviously, we've got a forced change with Bayer being out. What do you keep the rest of the? Yeah,
keep the same team. He had a better game. I'm still of the opinion that eventually I would like Ekdal to come in for O'Shea.
Yes, agreed.
I think O'Shea's slightly getting better, but I don't think he's good enough for this level. It's all well and good playing against Sheff United, but he makes too many mistakes for me, gives the ball away too much. And there were still times in that second half against Sheff United where we give sloppy ball away. And you get punished against the better teams. But as long as Brun Larson can start 2 games in a short space of time, then I say it's the same team. And I think because we was in a comfortable position, we was able to get him off early enough to hopefully he can recover. And that was a bonus of scoring them extra goals. We was able to get Koleosho off, Amdouni off. So hopefully they're fresh for Tuesday.
And Larson as well.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. And Larson. So, yeah, fingers crossed. First off for me, obviously, other than Ekdal coming in for O'Shea, the same team. And hopefully that continuity will reap its rewards.
Fine. Score prediction, Tom?
Heart says 2-1 Burnley. Head says 2-1 Wolves, probably.
Well, you have to pick one. You're not sitting on the fence.
I'll go with the heart then. 2-1 Burnley.
Yay, well done. Rich?
I'm the same as Tom. I'm the same as Tom's initial prediction.
No, listen, Dave, you're like cloning Dave every single time we do a preview show with you lot. This politician over here never gives me a straight answer and sits on fence.
Okay, fine then. First time ever Burnley's had 2 back-to-back 5-0 victories in the Premier League.
I love that so much. And that will be the clip that we will put on our social media. Thank you, Rich. Much appreciated. Dave, come on. Can we do it 2 in a row? Give us a prediction.
We could, but I think a draw is more likely. I'm going for 1-1.
Fine, whatever. To be fair, that was what I was going to go for. I'm going to stick with Dave. Surprisingly enough, we do tend to follow the same pattern with each other. I'm also going for a 1-1 draw as well. See the next podcast who is right. Okay, Dave, finish off the previous show section, please, by digging deep into those pockets of yours and treating our delightful 5-0 winning Clarets to your miscellaneous stat of the week.
Well, there were loads I could have gone with this time. There was a plethora of possibilities in terms of...
A plethora of possibilities. That is... And now you've just given us the title of the podcast. You're all doing my job for me tonight. This is amazing. Thank you.
Plenty of choice for positive stats, but the one I've gone for relates to the early goal. Modern technology means that Jay Rodriguez's opening goal on Saturday was timed at exactly 15.8 seconds and is just about the quickest score by a Burnley player in almost 6,000 past matches. In fact, I suspect there may have been one or two of you still found your way to your seats when the ball hit the back of the net. To my knowledge, the other two main challengers to the fastest ever Burnley goal are Robbie Painter, whose goal against Cardiff City at Turf Moor in April 1992 was reported at 16 seconds, and John Kennelly against Nottingham Forest, again at Turf Moor in March 1961, which was reported as being 15 seconds.
Lovely stuff. Well, there you go, listeners. It is time to test Statman Dave's knowledge. Is he the be-all and end-all? Is he the man of all the stats? Do you know of any Burnley goal that is quicker? That's what I challenge you this week. And that is all we've got time for the previous show. A reminder, please, that the midweek round of Premier League matches, which are all being broadcast live by Amazon Prime, are designated as brand new game week for FPL purposes. As such, the FPL deadline will be 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening for you to make as many transfers or tweak your starting 11 or play any of those special magic beans that you've got. And a message from Adam, green arrows to all of our known and ever FPL managers. Dave, quiz question. We're going to give out some answers. Rich, Tom, did either of you get any of the 7 players who have played more than 58 games for both Burnley and Wolves since the end of World War II?
I've got 4 written down.
Wow. Tom, how many do you have?
I had 3 that I was sure of.
Right, because Richard's got 4. Let's have one of your 4.
I'm pretty sure on 3 of them. So the one I'm definitely sure on is Michael Kitely.
Yes, surely. Did you have that, Tom?
I had him, yeah.
Okay. Who else is on your list, Tom?
Steve Kindon.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he's not on your list. Excellent. Okay. Rich, who's on yours?
I've gone with David Jones.
Yep.
Excellent. Did you have him, Tom?
That was my other one, yeah.
Yeah. So that's your 3, isn't it, Tom? That you had. So go on, Rich. You carry on. Keep the floor.
I've gone Chris Iwelumo.
No, not on the list.
Oh.
And then the other one I had down was Stan Vokes.
Yes, surely.
No, he didn't play that many for Wolves.
There you go then.
He went when he was at Wolves, he was out on loan quite a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The journeyman. Oh, I do like it when we manage to see. I love you, Rich. You've managed to just bring Sam Vokes into one that he had no business being in. I love it. You're my new favourite. You're my new favourite.
Shall I fill in the gap?
Yes, please.
So the ones you haven't mentioned were Kevin McDonald.
Oh, yeah, of course.
John Pender. Stephen Ward.
Oh, of course.
And finally, Paul Cook was the other one.
Oh, they're good answers. Excellent. Well done. Well, if any of our listeners got all 7, that would be a very impressive list. I'm going to say people didn't because there's a few on there that you thought would be on there that weren't. But that's an excellent question. Thank you, Dave. That is all we've got time for, listeners. Thank you for sticking with us. We hope you've enjoyed our first home win of the season podcast. Will we finish it off the week with... Well, actually, will we get 9 points this week? Who knows? Stick with us this week. We will be back with a preview show ahead of the weekend's fixture where we'll go over that away tie at Wolves. For all of you travelling to Molineux tonight, I think we're getting this out on a Tuesday, Godspeed to you all, and please do enjoy the feeling that comes off a back-to-back victory, and let's hope for another goal after 14 seconds and get to your seats nice and early because you never know. I'm going to go before I lose my voice, listeners, because it's declining as the podcast is going. Thank you to our contributors to this show, to, of course, Rich and Tom in the studio, our panellists who've given us their thoughts after that game at the weekend. And, of course, to Dave Statman-Roberts, who puts in a phenomenal amount of work getting the stats and facts together. And thanks to Wolves Fancast for their opposition view, our friends over down at Wolves. That is all we've got time for. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the preview show brought to you by the Known and Never podcast. Until next time. The Known and Never podcast is brought to you in association with the TalkSport Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley, and the show is produced by Matt Moss.
Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The Analysis Show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting nonanever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners TalkSport. We are proud to be associated with the TalkSport Fan Network.